from Girlybunches, and in this week's video I'm going to be showing you how to make these little Easter baskets. They don't have to be Easter baskets as such, but you know, they do look quite cute with little Easter treats in there. They could be a gift basket for anybody. Really simple to make. Just a few sort of stitches you might not be familiar with, but they're very easy to do, and I do talk you through each of the stitches, as well as having more in-depth videos on my channel on how to do each of them, the stitches that I mentioned. So this little basket is about it's about 2 3/4 inches in diameter across the bottom, so it spreads out a little bit. So I'd say, if I just do a quick measure, it's yeah, it will stretch out easily to about 3.5 inches, so depending on how many little treats you want to put in there. And it's got a nice little handle. Obviously it's not meant for doing your weekly shopping, but it is very decorative and cute and lovely to give as a gift. I will be putting written instructions on my blog on how to do this, so do check that out as well, and I'll put some links up here and down in the description box down below, and that's just to accompany the video. So there's a little Easter treat for you all. I'll just put that on my blog post. It was a blog post for you. So yep, this is how I made these little baskets. So I'm going to be using double knit yarn, so I'm going to need a 4mm hook, but what I will want to use in this video is actually a 3.5mm hook, because I want to have quite a firm feel to the basket, especially on the bottom part. I mean, obviously it's not going to hold too much, but you don't want it to be too flimsy, and it is only made out of yarn, so you need to give it its best chance as possible. So I'm going to be using a 3.5mm hook, whereas normally I would have used a 4mm hook, so just something to keep in mind. Okay, so we're going to start with a magic loop, and to do that you wrap the yarn around your finger twice, and then you take your hook and you slide it underneath both of those loops of yarn, and you take the one that's closest to your knuckle and you pull that underneath the first piece of yarn, and then just do a slip stitch, and then you can take it all off your finger by grabbing it like so. Apologies for my thumb, I had an argument with my car door, so sorry about that. I've tried to cover it up as much as possible. Okay, so there's your magic loop, and then you just do one chain, and then you can start working your stitches into that loop. So I'm doing 6 double crochets into that loop. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you may know those as single crochets, but because I'm British I call them double. Double crochets and single crochets are exactly the same thing, which just, I'm British, I call it a double. If you're using American terms, you'll know it as a single. Take your hook out of the loop and pull that free tail end, so that's the one that's not attached, and then that brings your loop up nicely, and there's your magic loop completed. So now what we just need to do is just do a slip stitch into that first double crochet, and that's our first round done. So if I just take the basket, you'll see that I have done lots of rounds and it's got bigger each time, and I've increased each round by 6 stitches, and I'll show you how to do that. And I've done that until I've got 42 on my outer edge. So if you wanted to make this basket a little bit bigger, you would keep going, making more rounds here, but you need to make sure that your last round has an even number of stitches, because this pattern is worked across even number of stitches, so make sure that's what you finish with. So I'm now going to increase this round. So to do that is we'll do one chain, and I'm going to do 2 double crochets into that same space. So that's 1, 2. And I'm going to do 2 double crochets into each of the stitches remaining. So in all I'll have 12 when I'm finished. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I'm going to finish with a slip stitch into that first stitch that we did there. Okay, so there's my second round done. Now what I'm going to do is do chain 1, and I'm going to do 2 double crochets into that same space. Into the next one I'm going to do 1 double crochet, so that's 3 stitches there. Into the next one 2 double crochets, and then to the next one 1. So I'm now increasing this by 6 by adding 1 more stitch in between the 2 double crochet stitches, and then that will end up with having 18 all the way around. So continue to do 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet. I'm going to keep going and come back when I get to here. So here I am, and I have 18 stitches all the way around, and I'm just going to do a slip stitch into that first stitch I did there. Okay, so if you are familiar with how to increase a circle until you get 42 stitches, you can skip now, and I'll put a link here for you to skip onto how to do the rest of the pattern. If you're not familiar, stick with me and I'll show you how to do the next round. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and we're going to do 2 double crochets into that same double crochet that we just did from the first round that we slip stitched into. So now this time, instead of doing 1 double crochet into the next one, we're going to do 1 and then 1. So we've done 2 into that one, and we're going to do 1 into the next one along, and 1 double crochet into the next one along. So that's now 4 stitches. So now I'm going to do 2 double crochets into the next stitch along, and then we're going to do 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet. So that will give me 8 stitches altogether. So you're basically increasing the number of 1 double crochets in between the 2 double crochets, and each time you do that on every round, you're increasing that round by 6 stitches. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets into the next one, and then 1 double crochet along, and 1 double crochet along, and you keep repeating that. So that's 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1 until you get round to here again. And now what I'm going to do is do my slip stitch here, and now in between each one of the double crochets I will have 3 stitches on this round. So I'll chain 1 and do my 2 double crochets. That's 1, 2. Now I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and now 2, 1, 2, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to come back when I get to here. Right, so I'm ready to start my 6th round here. So I've done my chain 1, and now I'm going to do my 2 double crochets into that same stitch, and then this time I want 4 double crochets along. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I can do my 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you get the idea, and I'm going to come back when I get to here. So I now have 36 stitches all the way around that edge, and I'm just going to slip stitch and do my final round. And that will be 1 chain and then 2 double crochets into that stitch, and now this time I'm going to have 5 double crochets along, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to do my 2 double crochets and then 5, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and again next one along will be 2 double crochets, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and as you can see it's getting bigger, and I'm going to come back when I get to here, and then that will be the end of our increasing rounds. Right, so there we go, there's our slip stitch to join those final increasing rounds, and we won't be doing that anymore, but now we have a nice firm base for the bottom of our basket, because we don't want our eggs falling out of there, do we, our chocolate eggs. So that's the base done. That's the way you'll see it. So now what we need to do, we need to start working the side walls of this basket. So remembering we have 42 stitches all the way around, and so you just kind of want to make sure that you do keep 42 stitches all the way around, otherwise your pattern might go a bit off kilter, because it does have an alternating pattern, so make sure you keep your 42 stitches. Okay, so we're going to chain 3, and that is going to replace a treble. So again, like I mentioned, I'm British and I use British terminology. I know that as a treble, but you may know it as a double. Okay, so what we need to do is we want to do 42 trebles all the way around, so 1 for every stitch. But what we need to do is we need to work it into the back loops. So if you look at your work, you'll see you've kind of got this V shape here, and that's the top of your stitches from your previous round. So when you do a normal stitch, you put your hook through both of those loops there. But this case, we actually just want to put them through the back loop. So put your hook down through and work through that back loop only. So only that back loop are you going to go through. But continue to work your stitch just as you normally would, but just going through that back loop. And the reason we're doing that is because it helps it to turn upwards. It gives it kind of like something to angle on. If I just show you the one that I finished, you can see there, that's the loop I didn't work into, and that has maintained that sort of flat bottom, as it were, and gives us that kind of nice angle, which is pretty difficult to do when you're working with yarn. But doing that, as you can, that's a good shot there, you can see it gives you a nice clean sort of angle, which I always find quite satisfying when you do, but you don't get that same effect if you work through both of those loops. So yeah, it's not difficult to do, and ultimately gives you a nice neat finish. And if you're taking the time to make something for yourself or for someone else, I really think that you should take the time to make it look nice and neat as possible. But yeah, continue to do that, so I won't bore you with that. I'll speed that up and come back. So there you go, I've gone all the way around now, and I'm just going to do a slip stitch into that third chain from the start, and then that gives us the starting of the walls of our basket. If I just push that down onto the table there, you can see that that gives us that nice sort of bottom and wall shape there. Okay, so next round is really simple. We're just going to do one chain and a double crochet into that same stitch, and then we're going to do one double crochet all the way around, working through both of those loops. Now we're done with only working in the back loops, just work as normal now for the rest of the pattern, and we're just going to do one double crochet all the way around. So last stitch there, one last double crochet, and then a slip stitch into that first one, and then just making sure that you've got your 42 stitches all the way around, and then you can continue to work the rest of the pattern. So what we're going to do now is we're going to chain 3 to replace a treble. Now we're going to do a double treble around the front post of not the double crochet but the treble that we did from the first round of working the wall of the basket. Okay, so to do a double treble you need to wrap the yarn around the hook twice. Okay, now to work around the front post, what you do is we're going to not work around this one because we've just worked above that one, but the next one along is we're going to work by putting the hook down and around the back of that post, but we're actually going to have the stitch around the front, so it will look like that. So that's where you've put your hook. Grab your yarn and then continue to work your double crochet, your double treble, in the same way that you would have done if you had just worked into the top of the stitch as normal. And don't panic, I'm going to show you again. So now we're going to do a treble into the next stitch along, so not the one that we've worked over, but the next one along. So that's normal, that's easy, so that's just a treble. Now we're going to repeat this, so we're going to wrap the yarn twice around the hook to do our double treble, and then we're going to skip the one that we've worked over, so not this one but the next one along, and this is from that first round that we did. Okay, sounds complicated but it isn't once you get going. And we're going to put the hook, so you're going to put the hook down between those two trebles there, up through the back and back through the front again. So if I show you that from the reverse, you can see just the hook going across the back of that stitch there. And this is working around the front post, and it's called front post even though you're putting it down through the back because the stitch is on the front, so it gives you that texture there. So next one is a treble, and that will be into the next stitch along, but you're working that into that double crochet that you did, that last round that you worked. So now you're starting to see the alternating pattern, and that's what's going to give you this weave pattern. So this is the first round. So next one along is a treble, and then the double treble, so the yarn over twice, skip that one you've already worked over and go down between the two treble posts and bring your hook back up and then work the stitch as normal. So that's over the 2 loops, 2 loops, 2 loops. And the next one is a treble, and you keep working like this until you get all the way around back to the beginning again. Okay, so I have gone all the way around now, and as you can see I've got one more stitch to do. So I just wanted to point out that that last stitch that you do should be a stitch that works around a post. So it looks a bit wonky, but that treble there is above that treble there, and I've got this one stitch here that needs to be worked, and that should be around the front post double treble. So if you end up with having 2 trebles at the end, or 2 front posts or whatever, then you may have skipped one of the stitches, and that is easy to do doing this pattern. So just double check what you've done, make sure you haven't missed any stitches, and double check that you have got an even number of stitches all the way around. And if you end up with the front post, then that's perfect and that's fine. You just need to do a slip stitch into that 3rd chain from that treble replacement there, and that's your round done. Okay, so now we've done that round, what we need to do is just do a round of double crochet. So chain 1 and 1 double crochet into the top of each of the stitches all the way around. So just nice and simple round after that sort of a little bit tricky, complicated round. And so just do your double crochets all the way around and come back and do your slip stitch, and I'll come back when I get to here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just do my slip stitch there, and that finishes off my round, and we now need to start working our next detailed round. So if I just get the basket I've already finished, and obviously I can't see where I started, but anyway, so let's just take this as our first round. As you can see, I need to now alternate this front post part of the pattern so that it falls on top of a part that isn't worked over a front post stitch. So when we get back to here, you'll see that you've now slip stitched what is above a treble from that detailed round. So your next stitch is going to be, what you don't want to have is a treble above that one. So in order to get us to make a treble above a front post stitch, you just need to slip stitch into the next stitch along, and for each of the other rounds that you do after this, you will need to do that. You'll need to just slip stitch one over so that you are now working above a front post stitch. So now what you do is you chain 3, and that's your replacement treble. Then you're going to do your double treble over around the front post around that next treble. It's much easier this round because you can see where your front posts need to go. And then you do your treble into the next one along, which is over a front post stitch. And then you just continue to work the same way as before, alternating, making sure that you're alternating your stitches so that the treble falls above the front post stitch and your front post stitch is going round a treble from the previous rounds. And as you can see, you then start to get that lovely basket weave appearance. So the next one will be a treble and then a double treble around the front post here, and now you can see that starting to look like a woven basket. So continue all the way around, do your slip stitch, do another round of doubles, and then do another detailed round. In this basket I've only done 3 rounds of the detail stitch and then I stopped. So you could do it taller if you wish, but it is only tiny, so you don't really want to make it too tall. And yeah, if you make the base bigger, then you'll probably want to make the walls a bit taller. So you're literally now just going to continue working that same process until you've got all the rounds that you want done. So I'm going to come back when I've got my 3 rounds and I'm going to show you how to do the handle. So if we just look at this one, you can see it's worked across 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you find what I'm about to explain a bit too much, you don't want to do it, then you could just do double crochets all over. But I've continued the sort of basket weave pattern, a bit difficult to see this colour, basket weave pattern that we've done for the rest of the basket, so it kind of continues the theme. So I'll show you how to do that, and it's pretty simple. So what you do is you just do 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, that's to replace a treble, and then we're going to do a treble into the next 3 stitches along. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm going to do 1 chain and turn, and I'm going to do a double crochet into each one of those trebles. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then 1 double crochet into that 3rd chain, and that makes my 4th one. Okay, now I'm going to chain 3 to replace a treble and turn. And following on from the theme that we've carried out throughout the rest of the basket, you want to make sure that you have a treble over a front post stitch, and you want to have a front post stitch over the top of a treble. So the next stitch along will be a treble because we have that front post stitch there, and the next one along will be a front post stitch over that treble that we did of our first sort of set of 4. So same thing as the rest of the basket, double treble around the front post, and then finish with a treble into that last stitch along. And then we just need to do our row of doubles, so that's 1 chain, turn, 1 double into that same stitch, and then 1 into the next 3, 2, 3, that's 4 stitches altogether. Okay, now we need to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn. And now this time we need to do that double treble over the front post over that treble that we did there, because the next one there is a double treble front post stitch. So round the back and through the front, do your double treble as normal, and then the next 2 stitches will be trebles. So the end stitches will be trebles, but the 2 middle stitches will alternate to give that basket weave pattern. Okay, so what we need to do now is repeat that block of stitches. So you want to have the front post stitch alternating, the one, so 1, 2, so left, right, and you will repeat that set of stitches until you get the length of handle that you want. Okay, so I have now finished doing my handle, so I'm very pleased with that, and it just gives you that sort of idea of how long that's going to be. I need to take my scissors and cut my yarn. And when you cut your yarn here, you want to give yourself a fairly decent tail end, because that's what we're going to use to sew the handle over onto the other side. But you just need to fasten off your yarn just as normal. So just pinch that through, pull that nice and tight. Probably give myself too much yarn there. But before I sew that handle down, I'm just going to quickly sew my end in here. Okay, so that's sewn in now. And now we just need to sew in our handle to the other side. Okay, so making sure you don't twist it over, you want to make sure it stays in the same way. So it's got the pattern facing out. And you just want to align it over, so just want to give it a good check to make sure you're getting it across the middle. But you want to make sure that you repeat this pattern again by making sure that you've got your post stitch over a treble like that. Okay, so it continues that weaving pattern, and I'm doing through the camera, so it's a little bit tricky for me to see, but I think I've got it just about right. And you just want to sew those 2 together. Okay, so that's just quickly sewn over, and you can see now they've got the handles coming up on both sides, which is lovely. It looks like a proper basket now. So now what we need to do is just sew in that end, because that's now fastened off. And whereas we won't be carrying boulders in our basket, I'm sure, but we do want to make sure that that has sealed off nicely. So make sure you've got a nice tight knot, and then weave your end in. Because what we need to do now is just do this finishing stitch here, which is that faithful crab stitch that I love so much. It's so simple, it's really effective, especially when you're using it to make something, you know, like this, because it really does give that proper kind of woven edge finish. So you need to attach the yarn to the right hand side. If you're right handed, the right hand side of the basket handle where it joins onto the basket. If you're left handed, you'll want to start on the other side, because when you work a crab stitch, you work in the opposite direction to what you're normally doing. So I've just done a slip stitch there just to attach the yarn. So chain 1, and this goes against what you're used to doing. You're now going to work into the stitch that is to the right hand side of your work, and you're just going to do a double crochet. Again, to the right hand side, put the hook through the stitch like you normally would, grab the yarn and do your double crochet. So you're working in the opposite direction. Feels a bit strange, feels a bit unusual, but once you get going, when you start to see that effect, it gives, you'll love this stitch. I love it too. And there you go, look at that lovely edge that you're getting. So working to the right hand side, pick up the stitch like you normally would, but you're just working to the right hand side instead of the left hand side. So if you're left handed, you'd start in this left hand side here and work left, which would be normal for me as a right handed person, but unnormal for you. So as a left handed person, so you just want to work in the opposite direction. And the brilliant thing about this stitch is that you can just keep going, and I'll speed up this a bit so you can see now that I am, if I've got my timings right, about to start working up the side of the handle. So you don't have to stop to work through the basket part and then the handle. You can just do this in one hit. So you'll be working on one side and then work the other side. So And now we can see we're starting to come back down to where we started. So it looked quite daunting. It looks like you've got a long way to go, but actually it's not very far at all, because it is only a tiny little basket. It's not a big shopping basket, is it? And then just a couple more stitches, and then you finish off by just doing, put it up through and the start of a slip stitch. If you cut your yarn, give you a nice tail to sew in, and then you can just pull that through and pull it tight, and there you go. Now the benefit of doing that edging stitch is that it gives it a nice sort of firmer shape. As you can see, this side is less defined than this side, so you just need to repeat that now for this side. So remember, starting in the opposite side that you normally would, and then sew in all your ends, and then your basket is done. So there you go, look, there's my little Easter basket finished, and now I see that the Easter bunny has come early for me and he's left me some little treats to put in my basket, and got a little ducky there and a little bunny in that one, and as you can see it fits quite comfortably, a decent sized amount of Cadbury's cream egg. And yeah, these are yes, well, I'm sure these got smaller as I got older, but yes, so you can see you can get sort of a decent size amount of treats in there just for that size. And if I just measure this across, I have to take all my little treats out now, but if I just measure this across, it is, because I know someone will ask me, it is roughly, well, it's about it's just over 2.5 centimetres, 2 3/4 inches, sorry, in diameter. So you can get a good size amount of treats in there. I'll just put Bunny back in there. So yes, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I would love a thumbs up if you did. If you, like I said at the beginning, I will be putting a written instruction on my blog, so you know, I hope that helps, but the video should explain everything, I hope. But yes, links up here in this little eye box here. I think I'll put a link to my blog post for that up there as well, and in the description box there'll be all the links as well, plus extra info, so do check that out. And yeah, give me a thumbs up, subscribe. I would love you to subscribe if you did. That way you'll get to see each of my videos as they come out once a week. And yeah, please do leave comments in the box below. And yeah, that's it. Okay, thanks guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks, bye. Hi everyone, it's Olivia from Girlybunches, and in this week's quick tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to do the popcorn stitch. You may have seen this written in a pattern that you're trying to do.